Today, we're going to be taking a break from some of the more advanced guides that we've been doing, and we're going to take a look at some basic tips and tricks for Windows. Stay tuned. We've been doing a lot of advanced guides lately, so today I wanted to slow it down a bit and take a look at some basic tips and tricks for Windows. However, don't click away. Just because this guide is going to concentrate on basic tips doesn't mean that you know them all. In fact, I've been a tech for a long time, and doing research for this video actually taught me a thing or two. Make sure you mention in the comments below how many of these tips you already knew about. This video is going to be broken up into two parts because there was just too many tips to cover in just one video. So today will be part 1, which will be 10 tips for Windows 10 and 11. And next week will be part 2, which will be another 10 tips for Windows 10 and 11. Also, make sure to stay until the end of the video because I have a bonus tip for you that you may not want to miss. But before we start, we have to pay some bills. So check out today's sponsor. Is your copy of Windows 10 unactivated? Well, it doesn't have to be, because with today's sponsor, VIP SCD Key, you can get a valid Windows 10 license for under $20. Stop dealing with that stupid watermark on the desktop, the valid license for Windows 10. Also, with an activated copy of Windows 10, you can upgrade to Windows 11 for free. Just go to the link in the description below and pick up a valid Windows 10 license key. During checkout, use the code CYBERCPU for a 25% discount. Once you have your key, go to your activation settings in Windows 10 and click on the link that says Change Product Key. Enter the product key you just purchased and hit Activate. Now you don't have to deal with that stupid watermark that come with running an unactivated copy of Windows 10. Now, on with the video. Now, let's jump on the computer. Okay, so on this video, I'm going to be doing this in Windows 10, but all these tips should work with Windows 11. It just might be a little harder to find some of the things because the settings in Windows 11 is a little bit different. But to start out with, the first thing that we're going to do is something super basic, and that's simply changing the sounds in Windows. Believe it or not, this is a basic task, but not a lot of people have ever actually done it. So let me show you how to do it. So the first thing you want to do is go down to your start menu, open up settings, and then from within settings, you want to go into personalization, and then from personalization, go to themes, and then from themes, you'll see right here where it says sounds, and right now it's just the Windows default sounds. And then from there, you get your sound dialog box that opens up right here. Now, if you scroll down, you can essentially change any sound you want from Windows right from this little menu right here. And all you would do is you would go down, pick the actual thing that you want to do. Like for instance, you got user account control. This is the sound that you would normally hear with user account control. If you wanted to change that, all you would do is you would either go down to sounds right here, and these are all the default Windows sounds that you can pick right here, or you can hit browse and you can pick a sound from any WAV file that you download off of the internet. Now, one thing you might notice from the sound dialog box that I didn't even realize until I was writing the script for this video right here is that there's no option for Windows startup or shutdown sounds like you had in previous versions of Windows. And honestly, that's kind of weird. So I looked into it and I found a way to enable them. Let me show you how to do it. Okay, so the lack of startup and shutdown sounds was kind of strange to me because you can see right here, there are a lot of things that have simply no sound associated with them. So I'm not sure why Microsoft just didn't do that with the startup and shutdown sounds, but they didn't. They actually disabled them completely. So let me show you how to re-enable them. Okay, so what we're gonna do is click on the start button. We're gonna type in regedit, and we're gonna open the registry editor here. Go ahead and say yes to the user account control, and here's your registry editor. Now from here, what we're gonna wanna do is go to current user, because this is only gonna apply to the actual user account. You'll have to do this on every user account if you decide you wanna change the startup and shutdown sounds on every account. But let me show you how to do it on the user specifically. So go to current user, then you wanna go to app events, then from there you want to go to event labels. And then from event labels, you want to scroll all the way down until you find Windows login. And right here, you got Windows login. And then from here, you can see this exclude from CPL is set to 1. What you're going to want to do is open that up and set this to 0. And then go ahead and hit OK. And then from there, we can go ahead and close registry editor. And then from there, we'll go ahead and cancel this. And we're going to open up the sound dialog box again. And now if we scroll down here, you'll see that the Windows login is now part of your sounds. However, the Windows shutdown sound is not. And for that, it's the same thing. We're gonna go back into the registry editor here. And then from there, we're gonna go into, before we were on Windows Login, but now we wanna go to Windows Log Off, and it's exactly the same thing. Go to exclude from CPL, hit 0, hit OK, and then go ahead and close your registry editor. And then we'll cancel this and open it again. And now if we scroll down, you'll see that we have the Windows Log Off and the Windows Login sounds available. So if you like following my other guides on making Windows 10 or 11 look like previous versions of Windows, you might also want to change the sounds to make them sound like the previous versions as well. And having the log in and log off sounds there kind of helps make that be more authentic. Anyway, let's move on to the next tip. Okay, so this next tip may be incredibly basic. However, it's amazing how many people don't realize that this is a thing that you can do. And that's simply keeping commonly used programs and files on your desktop. And let me show you how to do it. Essentially, right now my desktop's really clean. And most of the time you see people's desktops and they essentially store everything on their desktop. Well, there is a middle ground, and that middle ground is using the stuff that you commonly access. And to do that, essentially all you would do is, I'm gonna use Chrome as an example here. So we're gonna go ahead and click on Start. We're gonna go to Chrome on the list here and grab it and drag it out and simply drop it on the desktop. Now, this is a program that I use constantly. So having a link to it on the desktop is kind of nice and convenient, but this also works for regular files and folders as well. Like for instance, if we go into my documents folder, I have all my notes for this video right here in this text document. Well, I can take this and drag it out and drop it onto my desktop, and that'll give me an easy way to access this document without having to go through my regular file structure on my system. Now, there's a really important part of this tip, which honestly I think is the majority of the reason why I wanted to cover this in the first place. Because I've worked on customer systems in the past that essentially have so much on their desktop that there's no room for anything else. I mean, literally the icons are off the screen to where you can't even click on most of them because there's not enough room or real estate on their screen to be able to click on them in the first place. It's a really good idea to keep your documents or keep the files that you store on your desktop organized in some way. Either put them in subdirectories or put them on your desktop in a way to where it doesn't make the system impossible to use, or leave the links on your desktop unusable because there's too many of them in the first place. Now, one of the things that I do highly recommend is if this isn't a program or a document that you use commonly, then don't keep it on your desktop. You can file that into your other folders like your documents, your pictures, and things of that nature. Your desktop really isn't meant for storage. I mean, it's really not. It's nice to have a clean desktop, but it's also nice to have quick access to the things that you're using currently. Like if you're using a project that you're currently working on, stuff like that, if you throw it on the desktop, makes it really easy to access quickly. So let me show you one more aspect of this tip here. Okay, so if you don't want your desktop completely cluttered with different programs and things of that nature, there's another thing that you can do too. So from right now, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this away, and I'm gonna go ahead and move this into my trash can right here. And then what I'm gonna show you right now is essentially a way to be able to store commonly accessed programs without having them clutter up your desktop. So this is just another alternative to this tip right here, and that's pinning them to the bottom taskbar right here. So if you click on your start button, let's just use any program. Like for instance, we'll use Hardware Monitor here. So once we launch Hardware Monitor, you can see that I have this icon on my taskbar. However, if I close the program, the icon goes away. So if we're gonna launch this, I'm gonna go ahead and fire it up again real quick. And then we're gonna right click on it and we're gonna hit Pin to Taskbar. And then from that point, we're gonna hit close again, and you'll see that the icon retains on the taskbar like it did before. Now, I think this is a better way to store program icons because you don't necessarily need to clear off the running programs that you have in order to see your desktop, to see your icons in the first place. It's nice to have them accessible right from the taskbar at the bottom. So let's move on to the next tip. So this next tip, we're also gonna be concentrating on our taskbar right here, but we're gonna be talking about how we can have different options in how we open programs by how we interact with these icons in the taskbar. Normally, you would just left click the icon in order to fire up the program. However, if you right click on the icon, it'll give you different options for what you could possibly do with that program. For instance, you might not want a regular window, you might want an incognito window. So if you click on that, it'll jump right into incognito instead of into the regular Chrome. And there's all different kinds. Right now, unfortunately, with this system is just a bare bone version of Windows, so it doesn't really have a lot of stuff that you can do with it. However, if you've been using the system for a long time, you'll have tons of different options, like especially like sites that you visited the most. Right now, mine only says web store, but you could have a much bigger list in here if your system's used more commonly. And for our next tip, we're also going to be talking about the taskbar, but in a different way. Like for instance, I'm going to go ahead and open up File Explorer here. And as you can see, I have my File Explorer open. But what if I want another instance of File Explorer? A lot of times what you would do is you would right click and you would click on File Explorer again in order to get your other instance. However, if you click your middle mouse button, that's your wheel typically, it will do the same thing. It will open up another instance of whatever program it is you're using. So same thing, if we have Chrome open right here, if we use our middle mouse button, it'll open another instance of Chrome. And you can do this as many times as you want by simply hitting the middle mouse button, or in most cases, the scroll wheel on your mouse. So this tip with the scroll wheel is something that, believe it or not, after being a technician for over 20 years, was something that I just learned recently. I had no idea that you could even click the taskbar with the middle mouse wheel because I'd never even tried it before. And since learning it, I use it constantly now. So if that was helpful to you, let me know in the comments below because it was sure helpful to me. Okay, so this next one, we're gonna go ahead and close all these windows that we have open now. Okay, so the next tip we're looking at is how to manipulate notifications. Now, some people like notifications, some people don't. I'm just gonna show you how you can customize them to more fit your needs. And to do that, just go ahead and click on your notification button at the bottom right here, and then go to the top where it says Manage Notifications. Now, this might be a little bit different on Windows 11 than it is on Windows 10, but I think they have a link somewhere in the vicinity of the notifications to allow you to change it. So when you click on Manage Notifications, it opens up this screen right here. And this will give you all your different notification settings. So all of the programs that are allowed to send notifications, as well as the more general settings right here. Now, if you want to turn everything off, then you just flip it off like that. And also you can come through and uncheck these three right here. In fact, I highly recommend unchecking these three right here. The reason why you would want to uncheck the bottom three is because that's essentially Microsoft's propaganda. Have you ever noticed that occasionally when you start your computer up, it asks you if you want to create a Microsoft account? Well, that's why. By unchecking those last three, one of those last three is the one that tells Windows it's okay to do that. By unchecking it, they won't bug you about it anymore. And with me personally, I normally turn all of this stuff off. I turn everything off and turn notifications off completely because, you know, I really don't care. I don't want Microsoft's notifications. Okay, so the next tip we're gonna look at today is to do with File Explorer. So go ahead and get your File Explorer open. And on this tip, you may notice that ever since, I believe Windows 8 or 10, I can't remember when this started, but the quick access panel started, where essentially your File Explorer opens to quick access. In previous versions of Windows, it would have always opened to this PC. So you could get to essentially all of your main folders and your drives themselves. However, quick access is just within the last few versions of Windows, this has been the default homepage for File Explorer. So let me show you how to actually change that. So from within File Explorer, go ahead and click on the View tab right here. And from the View tab, you want to go to the end where it says Options, and you want to click on Change Folder and Search Options. And then from there, the very first line, you'll see where it says Open File Explorer 2. Right now it's set to Quick Access. Well, if we change that to this PC, then go ahead and hit Apply. And we'll close this. And then once we open File Explorer up, you'll see it opens by default in this PC. Now that tip right there, I gotta thank one of the viewers of this channel for, because in a video, I previously complained about quick access and said I wish there was a way to go back to this PC. And turns out there is. In fact, it's really easy. I'm surprised I didn't know about it. But if you were the one that told me about it, thanks again. Okay, so the next one we're going to look at, we're going to go ahead and close this, and we're going to talk about startup programs. Now, startup programs, this is a really basic tip, but it's a tip that a lot of people don't pay much attention to. So let me show you how you can change which programs start up with Windows. So the first thing we're going to do is click on Start and go into our Settings menu here. And then from Settings, you want to click on Apps. And then from Apps, we want to click on Startup, which Startup is right here at the bottom. And then from there, you can see that there's not many apps that start up on this PC because it is a very stripped down and default copy of Windows. However, if you have more programs installed, you'd have a longer list than I do right here. However, what you would do is you would go through and choose, like if you don't want Cortana, you can just flip it off right here. You can also flip off any other aspect of Windows that comes on when you start up your system. Now, going through settings, this is the way Microsoft wants you to do it now, but there's another way to do it to where you can have a little bit more granular control over your startup settings. Let me show you how to do that. Okay, so alternatively, we're gonna go ahead and close this. We're gonna right click on the taskbar and hit Task Manager. And then from there, we're gonna click on the Startup tab right here. And then from the Startup tab, you'll notice that it has essentially the same stuff that it had from the last one. However, from here, you can right click, you can go to Properties for the specific program. So if you wanted to, you can look at where this program is located, or if for whatever reason you don't recognize the name, you can go in here and see its location, and you can kind of get a little bit more of a hint of what that particular program is all about. You can also go ahead and see the details of it too, and it'll give you the copyright and the different company that created this particular program. So that might be helpful in deciding whether or not you want to start it or not start it. Now, the next tip that I'm going to show you, this one here is super basic. This is a video about basic tips, so I had to come up with some pretty basic ones and ones that I was hoping that some people would get benefit from. So what I'm going to do is, to show this one off, I'm going to open a whole bunch of windows here. And once I get all of these windows open, as you can see, we've got stuff completely cluttering our desktop. We've got stuff everywhere. Now, let's say, for instance, that we have work that's happening, and this is stuff that you don't want anybody else to see, but someone walks into the room. Well, there's a really easy way to deal with this. And what you do is go ahead and look at my mouse right here. I'm going to move my mouse all the way down here to the right corner. Well, if you essentially bury your mouse into the right corner, then it'll be on top of a button that's kind of hidden here, but you can kind of see just the blade of it right there. But if you were to click that button, it makes everything go away. Now, once you're ready to bring everything back to the way it was before, all you got to do is click on the button again, and it will bring everything back to the way it was before. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close all these windows now, because we have no reason to have all of these open in the first place. I probably shouldn't have opened so many in the first place, but you know what, it is what it is. Now, this next tip that I'm going to show you, I think is kind of neat, but other people might feel differently. But you might be used to using your phone having the ability to access emojis easily from your keyboard. Usually it's a button right on the bottom of your keyboard that allows you to open up an emoji menu so you can add emojis to whatever comment you're posting on Facebook or whatever that is. But wouldn't it be cool if you had the same access on your Windows PC? Well, you actually do. Let me show you how to do it. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and open up Notepad real quick. And then with Notepad open, so what I'm going to do is hold the Windows key and the period key at the same time. And as you can see, it jumped up with an emoji menu. Now, since I'm in Notepad, this is just a text editor. So if I go to click on an emoji, it's going to give me the black and white text version of that emoji. However, you can get essentially all of them in here. And it's a nice way to be able to access emojis from whenever you want to from within your Windows PC. Also, you can have the old-fashioned style emojis if you wanted to. These are the ones that you would have used on like your Nokia phone years ago. Or you could have symbols. So if you wanted a copyright or a trademark symbol, all you would have to do is go into this and you could get those same symbols right there. Now, when I said basic tips, I really meant basic tips. But this one here, at least it's a handy basic tip. The next one is a ridiculously handy tip. Let me show you what it is. Okay, so everyone knows that Microsoft doesn't want you to use Control Panel anymore. And that's why when you click into Start and you go through your list, it's impossible to find how to open Control Panel. All you have is Settings. And, granted, a lot of people don't like Settings. And it's probably because Settings kind of sucks. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff missing from it that you simply can't do that you need Control Panel for. So to open Control Panel, what you do is click on your Start button and just start typing Control. And then eventually you'll get the link for your Control Panel and you can open it up that way. And if you want, you can actually right click and you can pin it to your taskbar. So if you want to get to it easier later, you can always just click it and access it that way. Now, That there was 10 tips for Windows 10 and 11. All of these should work on both Windows 10 and 11. However, I promised you a bonus tip, and this tip is going to be extremely basic. In fact, I don't even need to do it on the computer. I can just tell you what it is. It's that basic, but it's extremely helpful to when you're using a system. And that is the hybrid shutdown within Windows, at least how to properly restart Windows. Because normally when you're done using your computer, you shut it down and you're done for the day. And you turn it on the next day and you assume that by shutting it down and turning it back on, that was a restart. Well, it's actually not. Unfortunately, what happens is with modern versions of Windows, they have what's called a hybrid shutdown. And what that means is that the computer essentially hibernates a lot of the system files and then turns off. So when it comes back on, it just restores a lot of the system from hibernation in order to speed up your startup. And it's nice because we don't want our computers to take forever to start up in the morning, right? At least I don't. So I like hybrid shutdown for that reason. The problem is sometimes when Windows starts to get buggy, it's a good idea to restart it. But if you're shutting down and turning it on every single day, you wouldn't think that you would need to restart it on a normal basis. But you actually do. So what you should do is go ahead and instead of shutting your computer down, occasionally select restart from the list instead of shutdown. And what that does is it will give your system a true restart and go ahead and start all those system files and services over again, just in case you're having any problems. So hopefully these tips were helpful to you. Let me know down in the comments below which one of these tips was your favorite. And also, let me know which tip I left out that you think I should have added. Because by the time this video is released, part 2 will have already been filmed, and we'll see if that tip you think should have been included is just in part 2. But in the meantime, if you like tips like this, then check out this video with 10 must-know tips for Windows 10 and 11. As always, you guys have a great day.